Welcome to Storytime with Fear. Tonight's tale will make your skin crawl. Brace yourself, because this story will keep you up all night. We moved into that house because it was too cheap to be real. When it came to superstitions, my father had always been doubtful, and my mother was no different. They didn't question why a huge Victorian home was selling for nearly half its original price. They didn't inquire about the rumors. They didn't think the stories were real. When my father said, "People just make things up to scare themselves." However, the basement was different. The only rule that came with the house was to never open the basement door. They were warned by the real estate agent. It was sealed off by its previous owners who would not approach it. Nobody was aware of the cause. Or perhaps they did. The warnings were ignored by my parents. It was a new beginning for them. A new residence for the ideal existence. And we had just that for 10 years, until the night I committed the greatest error of my life. I was 10 years old. For the first time, I was by myself at home. I was strictly instructed to stay indoors while my parents went to meet some friends in the city. There was silence in the house. However, after that, I heard it, a voice, gentle, kind, calling my name. From the basement it came. The door, which had always been locked, was suddenly open just a crack. I was aware that I should not, but I was drawn onward by something. In my thoughts, there was a power, a whisper telling me to enter. As I went down the steps, the atmosphere changed. It was cold, thick with something I didn't understand. Shadows on the walls shook as my flashlight flickered. And then I saw it. An old book, lying in the center of the basement. Covered in dust, bound in dark leather, its pages yellowed with age. I picked it up. The whispers grew louder. I turned the pages, my fingers trembling. I didn't understand the language, but my eyes locked onto one particular line. The ink darker, fresher, as if waiting for me to find it. And then I read it aloud. The second the words left my lips, the room shifted. The house shuddered. The lights went out, the whispers stopped, and then a slow creak echoed through the basement. The sound of something moving. I ran like my life depended on it, because it did. By the time I reached the top, my parents were home. I tried to tell them. Father grabbed a flashlight and stormed downstairs. He found nothing. But I knew what I had done. That night, as I lay in bed, I felt it. Something watching me, something waiting. The basement door was still locked, but whatever was in there was no longer trapped. We left the house. We couldn't stay there anymore. My parents decided we needed to move far away to escape whatever I had unleashed. They packed up and we shifted to a new home, leaving behind the house and the horror that lived beneath it. It was as if we were running from something, knowing that it had followed us, but it wasn't over. I haven't been back to that house in years. I never wanted to. But the past doesn't stay buried. A week ago, my father died. They found him in his study, his fingernails torn and bloody, deep scratches gouged into the wooden floor. His face, God, his face. They said he looked like he had been screaming when he died. The house was mine now. I should have sold it. I should have burned it. But I couldn't. Something inside me needed answers. So last night, I returned. The moment I stepped inside, I felt it. The weight of the house. The silence, thick and unnatural. It had been abandoned for years, but it wasn't empty. The basement door was open. A whisper slithered through the air. Nathan. The voice from my childhood, the one I had tried to forget. I told myself I wouldn't go down, but my feet carried me forward, step by step, until I was standing at the top of the staircase. The flashlight flickered in my shaking hand. I took a breath, and then I descended. The basement was exactly as I remembered, cold, damp, filled with the scent of decay. But something was different. The crate was gone. And in its place, it stood there, waiting. Its limbs were longer now, its body stretched and emaciated, its hollow eye sockets fixated on me. "You came back," it whispered. The walls trembled, the shadows deepened, moving. Then it lunged. I turned and ran, my heart pounding, my breath ragged. The steps groaned beneath me, the air behind me thick with something wrong. I reached the top. Something grabbed my ankle. I screamed, kicked, clawed at the doorway. The grip was ice cold, bone-thin fingers tightening around my leg. I wrenched myself free and slammed the door shut. Silence. then scratch, slow, deliberate, from inside my father's study. The thing in the basement wasn't in the basement anymore.